sobriety is quantitative, meaning you just count it. Did I use porn today? Yes, no, no, check. Resetting a tracker, that's sobriety. It's quantitative. How many days in a row have you abstained from using porn? But recovery is cumulative, meaning just because you have 100 days sober, you reset to day zero, you haven't lost the 100 days of work that you've been doing on your recovery. You're just resetting. You're still 1 day out of 100. You still at 99% uptime. I mean, in my tracker, I have 99.7. It's like, I don't have a perfect track record, but my recovery is very strong, even though my sobriety streak is not infinite.
Brothers, welcome to today's episode of the Recovered Dad podcasts. We are your esteemed hosts. Well, at least I am.
I was like, don't put that esteemed on me, dude.
What are you going to do?
It hurts when I fall off those high esteemed pedestals.
Well, that's why I like to put you up there. My name is Matthew Sinkovitz, and my partner in crime here, Yaden Smith. Brothers, we welcome you back. Thanks for joining us here today. And Yaden, it's good to see you, brother.
Matt, good to see you, sir. Good to see you. It is, we're getting the rain down here in South Carolina. I was just cutting grass today, just finished moments before the rain started. So
Nice.
Today's a win.
Nice,
Today
brother.
is a win.
Nice.
And I'm excited about the topic we have for this week's episode.
What do we got?
Because it's something that I've been rolling around in my head for a little bit, having conversations with men inside of the Liberation Bootcamp about this. And it's kind of a mishmash, a smorgasbord. We talked about these topics at length, the myth busting of is sex driven. I have a high sex drive, talking about the difference between sobriety and recovery. And I was kind of putting it all together as I was driving. I was thinking, I think this would be a good kind of buffet topic, right? Like tie all these pieces together. So men out there listening, dads, first off, thanks for listening. Just tuning in to a podcast where we talk about recovery and how it impacts us as fathers. That's a step in the right direction. And so I wanted to talk about when a reset happens. So first off, I want to cover again the difference between sobriety and recovery. So
You mean there's a difference?
Yeah, there is a difference. Sobriety is quantitative, meaning you just count it, right? Did I use today? Yes, no, check. You've seen those. I mean, I don't know if you have, but I've seen those fun ones on TikTok or Instagram or wherever. It's like day 1, no cookies. Day 2, no cookies. Day 1, no cookies. Day 1 in the afternoon, no cookies, right? It's like, and we laugh and we crack up. It's like, yeah, because we all relate to stuff like that. And like, we all know that one serving of Oreos is the entire bag, not just 2 Oreos, according to the nutrition data. And that's a humorous way to, resetting a tracker. That's sobriety. It's quantitative. How many days in a row have you abstained from using? But recovery is cumulative, meaning just because, you have 100 days sober, you reset to day zero, you haven't lost the 100 days of work that you've been doing on your recovery. You're just resetting. You're still, 1 day out of 100, you still at 99% uptime. I mean, in my tracker, I have 99.7. At 99.5. It's like, I don't have a perfect track record, but my recovery is very strong, even though my sobriety streak is not infinite. And so the first thing is, when you start this journey of trying to get away from trying to leave it behind, first off, give yourself grace, because it is not realistic to think that once and done and okay, I'm good. I'm never going to have to worry about this again in my life. Partly because one, carrying around the entire anthology of in my pocket. It's not like, I'm trying to stop smoking weed and just, don't talk with the dealer anymore, right? Just don't go to the store.
Yeah.
Right. You're not at the store 24/7.
Yep.
With is in my pocket. Access to it is in my pocket 24/7.
Yep.
So one, give yourself grace. There are going to be resets along this recovery road. And that, the point I really want to drive home, that is where the work really is.
Yeah.
In putting on your detective hat when there's a reset to figure out what happened. Right? Oh, you got a way better detective hat than I do. Right? That's almost Sherlock Holmes-ish. Not really, but so, because what happened, like when I was trying to quit, it would go like this. And, this might sound familiar. Like, use guilt, fear, shame. It's like, you know what? Never again. Never going to use this again. Right?
Learn my lesson. Learn my
lesson. Right? Nope. No mas. And then I'm white knuckling, just like, no, I'm not going to use. I remember when I was living in El Paso doing youth ministry, I got this little dinky video game on my laptop. And I would play that video game when I felt the pull for. And, I told my wife, like, yeah, I have this video game. So when I feel the urge to go somewhere I shouldn't online, and I was playing the video game a lot. Right? I was playing the video game a lot.
High score.
Spoiler alert, that didn't work. That didn't work. Fast forward, 15 years later, and I was still stuck. So I would try and distract myself when the urge would happen, when something would trigger me. It's like, oh, whew, yeah, I really want to pull my phone out and go hide and watch and get online and watch. And see, for men, we kind of equate porn with sex, with like a high sex drive. And we've talked about that myth in the past on previous episodes. But to recap, men out there listening, dads out there listening, I think the reason why we equate porn with a high sex drive is not because porn is inherently sexual, because it is, right? I'm not trying to say it's not, right? Videos of people having sex, pictures of people having, is like inherently, explicitly sexual. However, I think more for men, we equate sex with kind of, I don't want to say release, but yeah, like releasing the negative emotions that we have. Relief. Yeah. It's relief from the pressure, the negative emotion, the negative self, the story in our head. And especially as dads, the story we have in our head is we're unwanted, undesired. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the work we're doing. We're unappreciated. We're taken for granted. And when we get to have sex, when that happens, like, oh, we feel validated. And I know I do.
Connected.
We feel connected. We feel validated. That story gets pushed down, gets forgotten about for a time. So it's very normal for guys and fathers to equate sex with relief. And so we equate with relief, because we equate porn with sex, and it's like, oh, that's our relief. So we're white knuckling. For me, I was white knuckling it, just like, nope, no today. Every now and then in my journal that pops up, like, oh, this is what you wrote, 5 years ago. It'd be like day 1 of reset. I'm like, oh, I remember I know exactly what that is. Like, I was like, 30 days. That's all I got to do. If I can make it 30 days, I got something. Spoiler alert, I don't think I ever got to 30 days trying that system. So we equate sex and with relief, and it does provide relief from that, from the chaos emotionally, the pain mentally, the pain in our emotions. But then the guilt, fear, shame comes along, and the cycle starts all over. And I think one of the things that men miss is we think a trigger event happens. And again, this is equated with men thinking that, oh, I have a high sex drive, right? Like you're at the grocery store. I remember one time going to the grocery store on a Wednesday afternoon, and I was like, what is happening? Why are these 20-something women walking around with half their butt hanging out of their shoe? Like, what is going on? Like multiple aisles. I was like, oh my gosh, this is right. A kind of a triggering moment for me. Like I need to shop on the perimeter and I need to get my food and get out of here. A trigger event where it's like, oh, the wheel starts spinning. It's like, oh man, I'm feeling the pull. But very rarely do men do the detective work to figure out what are the conditions that let a trigger event actually be a trigger. One of the things that we talk about in the Liberation Boot Camp and in the curriculum that we take men through is the difference between the trigger event and the conditions. And the analogy that I love is a fire, right?
Yep.
Think of a campfire. You're going camping or you're trying to build a fire in your fireplace. You're just building a fire. What is one of the most important things you need? You need dry wood. You need seasoned wood.
Yep.
When we cut wood out at my dad's farm, we cut wood and then it sits and dries for a year before we burn it.
Yep.
So it can totally dry out. It's not green. It catches on fire really well. Throw some newspaper in there, throw some kindling wood in there, light it with a single match, and you can have a roaring fire. And that, I think, is a really good analogy for what happens with us as men. Because if we focus on the condition, what's the condition of the fuel that the trigger is trying to light? Because if you have green wood, if you have wet wood that's not dry, man, you can take a propane torch to that stuff. And it's like, come at me, bro. I don't care. I ain't burning. And I see this in how I relate with my children. I see this in how I relate with my wife. And I'm learning through the recovery to relate to it and how I relate with myself. Because if you're a dad, you know the truth of what I'm about to tell you. And that is when we are at peace internally and our kids are acting the fool, it's way easier to deal with. When I'm stressed out, when I'm on a call, when I'm feeling the pressure at work, my kid says something dumb because they're a teenager, I'm like, shut up. Bam. It's like there's gasoline on that. It's just gasoline waiting on the wood. And so it's the same thing with our recovery journey. So when we're not paying attention to the conditions and then a trigger event happens, bam, explosion. And that's one of the reasons why one of the tools we use inside the Liberation Boot Camp is called the 0-day doc. It's like when there is a reset, because remember, having a perfect sobriety track record, not realistic. And taking the time to really put on the detective hat and look at, okay, not just what was the trigger event, because some triggers things you're just not going to be able to avoid.
Life happens, right?
If women in bathing suits is a trigger, you're never going to be able to go to the beach with your family or go to the neighborhood pool. Like, is that really the life you want? There are certain trigger events, right? Not having access to. It's like, well, dude, if you got a smartphone, if you got a computer, you got access. So doing the work on figuring out what are the conditions that were present that I wasn't paying enough attention to that let my framework weaken to the point where the fuel was dry, there was a little bit of lighter fluid on there, and then a trigger event happened, and now, bam!
What are some examples? What are some of those examples of those of those conditions, Yaden?
Say that again, Matt. My computer freaked out and it didn't go in my ears. It was somewhere else.
What are some common examples of those conditions, if you will?
Oh yeah. So conditions that I've identified in my life.
Yeah.
Not getting enough sleep. Right?
So fatigue.
Think of the Snickers commercials. I love those Snickers commercials. You're not you when you're hungry. Right? That's great, right? It's like, man, what's wrong with you? You're not playing football well. It's like, here, have a Snickers. And then suddenly they can play. Maybe you're hungry. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're stressed out at work. Maybe you're lonely, right? It's the classic acronym from the 12-step world of halt, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, but figuring out what was going on with the conditions that let you get to the point mentally and emotionally that the trigger was dangerous. Because think about it, right? You go to the pool, you go to the beach, like there are trigger moments that happen that you don't even notice because you're at peace, you're centered, emotions are nervous system is regulated, the story in your head is not exploded. There are moments where like trigger type events happen and it's like, oh yeah, doesn't even faze me. Same thing with my kids. My daughter won't clean her room. I'm like, oh well, she will at some point. I'm not worried. When she's 30, she'll be on her own, having to deal with her own messy room. Won't be my problem. And figuring out what the conditions are, and that's where the work comes in. Because when there's a reset, when we reset our sobriety tracker to 0, that's where we can learn, oh, these conditions are dangerous. And I have to pay attention more because if I let these conditions happen, I'm very vulnerable to a trigger event. For example, let's say a trigger event is family goes out of town or wife goes out of town, right? Wife goes out of town, trigger event like, oh, freedom, right? I don't have anybody around. I can do what I want, right? Maybe that's just the little voice in the back of your head like, hey, man, you can if you want. You got way more privacy than normal. And if you know that can be a trigger, then the week ahead of time, let's say, wife's going out of town on the weekend. It's like, you know what? Or maybe I'm going on a trip. I'm traveling out of town. I'm traveling out of town this week. I need to really pay attention to where I am emotionally, to where I am mentally. I really need to work on my recovery practice, the daily practice. For us in the Liberation Bootcamp, what we teach is we have this daily 4 habits. We call it the core 4: reading, journaling, meditation, and exercise. For me, it looks like taking my dogs for a walk in the morning, go for about a 15-minute walk. I'm listening to my audiobook, kind of for personal growth. Just finished Conversations with God. Great audiobook, by the way. But you're listening to something like that. Maybe it's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Maybe it's 7 Habits of Highly. You're listening to something that is edifying, something that is helping you grow, right? I'm not talking about listening to Harry Potter on your daily walk or listen, whatever fiction book it is, although I do listen to those. Then meditation. I have a meditation app, and honestly, my 13-year-old son has asked me if he can start meditating with me. I invited him to meditate with me. So turn on the meditation app, sit in the meditation for 10 minutes, trying to notice my thoughts, notice my emotions, just build that awareness. And I already said and journaling. I keep my journal digitally, voice to type in my journal, talking about what's going on in my life, where the emotional pain is, where the mental anguish may be, what's good, what's tough, to just process through that. And I also have a community that I get to check in with, because that is a critical piece of the puzzle, in my humble opinion. My unpopular take: doing this recovery work, doing this detective work, trying to figure out how to identify the conditions so the triggers don't set you off. Doing all that work, I believe it's it might not be impossible. I'm going to say it's impossible. Somebody's like, well, technically, actually, y'all, let's be real. I don't think it's possible for us to do this in isolation. If you're going right, the old proverb, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with somebody. Having a group of men that is safe, that are doing this work with me, where if there's a reset, it's like, y'all, I reset my tracker. They help me process through. It's like, what were the conditions leading up to it? It's like, oh, you know what? I've been traveling for 2 weeks. Hadn't gotten enough sleep. I was off, have to travel for work because work is squeezing me like a vice. And I get home, my children are like, oh, dad's home. Blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares. The story in my head was spinning up. And yeah, I see it now. The emotions were building, building, building. The pressure was building. And this spot in my defense just caved. And then I can work on, oh, well, how can I reinforce this piece of my defensive framework so that the next time I'm traveling and stressed out and business is pushing on me and my kids are doing what kids do, like, oh, you know what? I recognize this. And I'm very vulnerable to a trigger. So what can I do to work on my internal conditions so that when a trigger happens, it doesn't faze me? Having a safe space, right? One thing we say all the time is shame dies when stories are told in safe spaces. Being able to tell the story of what happened up right before a reset, there's no shame in that. You didn't fail as a man. Your framework had a weak spot. And if you can identify the weak spot, now you can do something about it. So I was thinking, so that's the point that I want to points multiple, kind of a smorgasbord of stuff that we've talked about on podcasts in the past, right? Men equating with a high sex drive. Like I use to have a high sex drive. It's like, I don't think that's true. I think we use sex for relief sometimes, if not a lot of times.
Pain pill.
And then we equate with relief. We reach for our pain pill, like you said.
Yep.
We don't realize that it's not just a trigger event. Mm-hmm. It's the conditions leading up to the trigger event that really make us vulnerable.
Yep.
And being able to dig into what those conditions have been leading up to the use, the recess, like, oh, okay, here's another piece that I can work on. And it reminds me of the verse in Proverbs where it says, the wise man sees the danger and takes precautions. The foolish ignore the danger. They keep going and they pay for it. They pay for it. Now I'm paraphrasing. I can't remember the reference, but it's in Proverbs. I know it in KJV. Wise man foreseeth the evil and hides himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. So you can look it up in the KJV to find the reference. I paraphrased it for 21st century English. But it's that whole premise of figuring out what are the conditions that I'm in so that I can identify potential triggers coming up and work on the conditions, work on my framework so that when you reset, you're not just white knuckling all over again, because white knuckling doesn't work. We all know that. If that worked, we wouldn't be talking about this. We wouldn't be talking about this.
Excellent. So, beautiful, beautiful. Great share, great insights.
And the same thing, you often ask me, like, well, how does this apply to recovery? Right. It's like, well, how does this apply to being a better father? Yeah. It's the same thing, y'all. Our kids are acting the fool, we explode. It's like, oh, if we were in a calm place, we wouldn't have exploded. It's like, oh, you make me so mad. It's like, no, they don't. They're just being kids. What were the conditions leading up to that trigger event where I wasn't centered, I wasn't calm as a father, as a man, and then the trigger just ignited everything?
I once heard a great rebuttal to the to the triggered kind of excuse and say, well, in order for something or someone to be triggered and the explosion to happen, the gun has to be loaded in the first place. And, that's what I hear you speaking to as it relates to core 4 recovery habits and like the conditions that lead up to the actual explosion, if you will.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Doing the work on and that really has become the guiding principle for me as a dad, is working on myself to be able to navigate my emotions. Like, real talk, just last night, we're at the dinner table having spaghetti, and my wife is trying to talk about the schedule for an event that we have coming up. And oh my gosh, it was so chaotic. Multiple people talking at the same time, my daughter chiming in, my 16-year-old had questions. She was trying to answer them. I was like, I was frazzled, and I wanted just everybody just shut up. No more talk. Shut up, everybody. Sit down. And I almost I'm like, okay, you know what? This is extremely painful and very uncomfortable for me to just sit here and not react. And I'm grateful for the recovery habits, right? I could tell conditions were dry. Like those, like you're driving through a national forest. It's like, oh, what's the danger of a fire, forest fire today? It's like green, yellow, orange, red. And like my meter was like it hit the orange. I'm like, okay. Everybody's just being who they are. Nobody's being malicious. No, I'm not under attack. I'm safe. I was like, back to green. And we got through the conversation about what the schedule is for the event we have coming up. Barely. So this stuff that we're talking about, y'all, it doesn't just apply to recovering from. It applies to being a better father, being a better husband. This detective work of figuring out, it's like, okay, what was happening before the trigger event? What was happening? How can I work on that? Because if you have kids, you know. Basically, their job in life is to trigger parents. That's like the one thing they are really good at. They're not good at taking out the trash. They're not good at doing their chores, but they're good at triggering mom and dad. So, yeah. Thanks for listening.
Great share, brother. Great insights here today. Thank you.
So, man, if you're out there and you're thinking like, okay, you know what? I want to do the work. I want to learn more. Yo, check out our website. We got therecovereddad.com. You can download the Father's Freedom Framework. You can learn about our 7-day reboot challenge. It's just 7 days, 7-day challenge that we have periodically. And you talk more with us about it. You can schedule a call. You can jump onto a 7-day reboot. You can learn more about the Liberation Boot Camp. We want you to win. We want you to leave this behind, and we're rooting for you.
Amen. Yeah, thanks so much for your share. Brothers, thanks so much for being here with us today, for tuning into the conversation. Hope that you found the conversation helpful today. We love and appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode, wherever you are in the world. Peace and power. Boom.
Noble men.
We're noble men. Bye-bye.